Quan vulguis, Begoña.
Bona tarda a tothom.
Sí, està emitint.
Sí? Bona tarda, doncs comencem. Sigueu benvinguts. Gràcies per ser aquí.
Welcome. Thank you for being here. From the Service of Education Success and New Opportunities, we want to celebrate the fact to have here once again Catherine Riley and Manuela Mendoza with us. In their previous webinar, What's a School Like, where everybody feels they belong, had a huge success. In the live session, there was about 300 people connected following the streaming, and the recording in the YouTube channel already has more than 500 viewers. This shows clearly the interest of our webinars. It is a pleasure to have Catherine and Manuela once again with us in this project to learn from a school that learns, especially the sense of belonging and the implications in educational success. So thank you very much, Catherine and Manuela. Catherine Riley is a UCL professor from the University College of London, and she specialized in international research as far as belonging issues in education. Manuela Mendoza is a PhD in sociology in education. They have published recently a study on the leadership experiences during lockdown due to COVID-19. So today we're focusing on this very context, the pandemic. With your participation, we want to give replies to the question that Catherine is asking us: up to what point the impact and the experience of COVID-19 have redefined what a leader of an education center really is. And today we have a group of head masters who will participate actively in our webinar. Isn't that the case, Mireia? Yes. And before giving the floor to Catherine and Manuela from the Education Success, we want to thank you for this live participation. Thanks to all the head teachers of this team. We have invited them because they are putting into practice projects with educational success opportunities, what we call POEFA in Spanish. And with our spring lockdown, they saw how their initial project couldn't go ahead, and they see that now with this new normal, this new normality, they have to rethink what they had first established. So we are inviting them. Why? Because we recognize their leadership to make sure that success opportunities within this very complex situation is there. And we also recognize the effort that they're doing and they have done to adapt to this new situation. So a huge thank you for your co-responsibility, for your participation. Catherine and Manuela, the floor is all yours.
No ver el micro.
Thank you. If we could just start with the first slide, which just has the name of our session on, that would be great. Thank you. Thank you. So let's just have that first one only. Thank you so much. I just want to start by saying how pleased I am to be here again. Some of you I have met before online, some of you I haven't. And I live in Greenwich, in London by the river, and today is one of those just beautiful spring days. And yesterday, I took my granddaughter to the park and we had a wonderful time counting daffodils. And when you get a day like today, it's easy to think that all is well with the world. And for some of us, it is. And we all want to forget, don't we, the way the the pandemic has spun us all around and the casualties along the way. And we also all want to remember what I call those random acts of kindness that have helped us find our way through it. And of course, the reality is that we need to remember both. We need to remember all that kindness, but we need to remember what has happened and what it's felt like and who has suffered and what we've learned about what needs to change, because otherwise it seems pretty pointless to me. And so I start with that because I think it's certainly what drives me. And I think it is when I hear conversations that go back to normal, I go, no, thank you. Not back to normal, back to something different. Let us learn from what has happened. Let us remember our own experiences, and let us take the space that we're in now to really rethink, recalibrate, and to think of schools as places of belonging for not only for all young people, but for staff too. So what I want to do today is, first of all, go back a little bit briefly to some of the issues I raised in my last session, which is why is belonging important today? And then I want to take you on a journey. First of all, to your own school, which I've drawn, but I've used the idea of your tree, your school, take you to your school and your experience and what's happened to you. And then I want to take you somewhere that I think is really difficult for anybody who's a leader, and I call it the cloud of unknowing. And it's accepting that no matter what's happening now, yeah, we may be coming out of lockdown a bit, things may be opening out, but truly we do not know what is going to happen. And if you're a leader, wow, you know, your job is to know things. How can you accept that you as a leader are not going to know things, and what does this actually mean for you? And then the third bit is about the choices you can make as leaders, and about what I talk about, which is compassionate leadership for place and belonging, and what that means, and why I would be encouraging you to walk into that space. So let me take you, so next slide, please, to this whole thing of why belonging matters today. So that's slide 2, please. Thank you. So this is just a stock taking exercise to go back. And this is, you know, a lot of this, if you were able to join us last time, you will remember this. There's an important thing about what's going on in our world and why belonging matters. So here is our world, which for many, too many, feels very uncertain, very hostile. And yet, despite everything that's gone on, it is still a world of boundless promise and possibilities. But for a lot of people, it doesn't feel like that today, even when the sun is shining. And it seems to me that within everything that we have all experienced over the last year, 15 months, what we can do is to create a world in which a sense of belonging in school is a treasure that all children, young people can experience. Not just a few of them or even the majority, but all of them. And this Wordle here, which I love, was put together by a group of young people that I was working with on belonging. And it's the Wordle that they put together in their school. They asked all the students in their school, what does belonging mean to you? And it's wonderful because it's all there. It's about friendship, it's about safety, it's about kindness, and it's about happiness. And I think it's remembering that when people are talking about catch up and all this thing, and our children have lost out, which they have in many ways, what is it we are trying to create for them? Slide 3, please. Hello, slide 3, please. Thank you very much. Oh, you've gone. Can you go back 3? This is number 4, slide 3, the COVID one, please. I don't like to look at this too much, but I think we need to remember this, and that what has happened has affected all of us, but it has affected those who have already struggling in society. I mean, what COVID has done is expose the divisions within society, and it has widened the divisions within society. And I think when you look at people's experience of this, we need to remember this, and we need to act on this knowledge. Next slide, please. In the last session, so the evidence slide, please. Next slide. Thank you. Cool. This is some of the work that I covered last time. This is some of the evidence about, in the left-hand column, about the problems and the challenges of not belonging. And if you look at OECD data, which is quite depressing, I think what is depressing about the OECD data is the sense that the current figure is, 1 in 4 children, young people feel they don't belong in school. Children from disadvantaged communities are twice as likely to feel that they don't belong. And the really depressing thing is that figure of 1 in 4 is now moving to 1 in 5. And it is an issue of real concern. So I say to myself, this is pre-COVID. You think, given we know that, what are we doing about it? Why is it that for something like 1 in 4 or nearer to 1 in 3 children, young people feel that they don't belong in school? And then the evidence on the right-hand column, this little summary, there's loads of evidence, but this is from the research that you can access on our website. This is research that was commissioned by our teachers union, the National Education Union. Evidence, pupils who have a sense of belonging tend to be happier, more confident, and they perform better academically. So you say, given we know this, why on earth, before COVID, why on earth haven't we been doing something about it? Next slide, please. So the challenge is this, how do you move from this sense of not belonging, a sense of feeling unsafe, isolated, excluded, marginalized, vulnerable? How do you move from that? Because what we know, what the data shows us is, is the impact of that feeling of not belonging, what it means to be ostracized, to be alienated, is such a dispiriting and alienating experience that many young people carry with them throughout their lives. And last time, some of you remember, I did that exercise of whether you belonged in school, and everybody remembers whether they did belong, great feeling, didn't belong, or were this kind of in between, sometimes felt that they belonged and didn't, and how important that this is through all our lives. So how do we move from this not belonging, next slide, which is the belonging one, which is lovely, as I define it, that sense of being somewhere where you can be confident that you will fit in and safe in your identity. I like the opening slides. I know these are 2 male slides, but it was the newspaper did this in relation to something I wrote, so it wasn't quite my choice. Next slide, please. So for you as a school leader, you've got to be thinking about, okay, yeah, my school, pretty good school, but do all the children feel they belong? And I think it's also really important to be thinking about belonging from different perspectives. I particularly like this one from one of the student researchers that we used work with us in one project. If children don't belong in school, they don't belong anywhere. I mean, children have it, don't they? They get to the heart of things. So the question is for you as a leader, what is it you're carrying in your heart? What is it you're taking in this post-COVID experience? What have you learned about belonging and identity, and how are you going to take this on board in your role as a school leader, and what are you actually going to do about things? So can we move to the next slide, please? Okay. So, and we've got this slide in English, and then we've got it in Spanish, not in Catalan, but we've got it in Spanish. So I want you, or can we go back to the English first for me? No, it's okay. You keep the Spanish one. That's actually fine. I've got the English version here. Okay. So when you look at the tree, this is the tree. This is your school. I just think it's a really nice way. And I realized that the apple tree is perhaps, you know, not, I thought, yeah, I didn't have a nice, you know, peach tree or something that might have been more appropriate to Catalonia, but I kind of like this tree anyhow. So when you think about your school and think about it as a tree, and there are you with a role in growing and sustaining that tree. And then you're thinking about all the people that are helping you in doing that. I want you, so what we're going to do in a couple of minutes is divide into our little discussion groups. And for those of you who are tuning in onto YouTube directly, then I want you to do the same task in your particular way. So when you look at the questions that I've written, you go to the question that speaks to the heart of things for you. So it might be that question, you know, what's damaging the tree? What's needed to help it thrive? You know, has COVID, has everything going on? What has it done to the tree? I mean, who has suffered because of what's happening? And when you look at the top, it's been tough, hasn't it, for all of us in different kind of ways. So my question there is, how compassionate are you to yourself as one of the growers? Because if you are not compassionate to yourself and all the challenges and the problems and the stresses, it's going to be pretty difficult to be compassionate to other people. So that's a second question. And then, you know, does every apple on that tree feel that it belongs? You know, every student, every parent, every member of staff, everybody who's part of the school community, is everybody. This tree is lovely, isn't it? Because it's all these lovely ripe red juicy apples. They all look, you know, gorgeously, you know, ready to eat. And then if you go to the bottom of the tree and you ask that question, how strong are the roots? You know, with everything that's gone on, have the roots been damaged? Do they need attention, or are they still okay? And then my final question there is, who can help grow the tree, keep it thriving? Who do you need to help you do it? Because this tree, which is a beautiful, rich tree, it might need attention in the future. You may need to lop off some branches. Who knows what you need to do? So in a minute, we're going to go into groups, and these are the questions. So this is your lovely tree, is your lovely school for you to think about. Think about what has gone on for you. And I'm just going to ask you to respond to the question that is the most important for you. And so for those of you who are going to be send in your comments, and, you know, which is the most important for me is, you know, is about the roots, because, or it's about me and I've been really struggling, whatever. There are no right or wrong answers, but this is a way for us to share your experience of what's actually been happening to you and your school community over the last, it's more than a year now, isn't it? A year. It's very hard to work out. It's been a long time, hasn't it? Okay, so we are, those of us who are online here, we're going to divide into two groups. Some of you are going to be on your own, but we want to hear from you. And Miriam will reflect your comments. So you are part of all of this, even though we can't see you at the moment. And I have been promising or threatening to, you know, when I can, I'm going to come. So hopefully I'm going to get to meet loads and loads of you when I do come, even if I don't see you today. So if we could go into the two groups now, that would be fantastic. So welcome to everybody in the group. It's really nice to see you all. It's always so wonderful, isn't it, to see people and hope to meet up. I think from what many of you will be head teachers, so I'm just gonna ask everybody to think about that wonderful tree, to think about your school, and tell me what is the most important question for you. Think about your tree, your school, what's been damaging it, where is it thriving, how tough has it been for you, how easy has it been for you, does everybody feel they belong, how strong are your roots, who is helping you keep your tree going, and let us hear from you. So Laura, I'm just gonna pick on you because you're in the middle of my screen. So welcome to you. Tell me about your tree.
Laura. Hola, bona tarda.
Hello, good afternoon. Well, let's see. We had a common goal, which was to overcome this crisis, more strengthened. We wanted to support our students. We have very vulnerable students. It's a very complex school. So what we had very clear in our mind, and now I think the speaker has silenced herself. Yes, sorry, she says. So this common goal we had to overcome this crisis, to support our children, our teachers, therefore, had to be the leaders of this support to their students. I think we've really come together. We feel like a team. Everybody is important. And if we think about the apple tree, I would say that all apples are equally important. Obviously, the management team had to support on their turn all the professionals that had to face this situation, i.e. they had to talk to families. It's been very difficult for them. It's been very hard for everybody. We felt stressed, sometimes overwhelmed, but I think this has made us stronger. We've managed to, as I said, come together to help our students and to help ourselves. And that's the most important thing I would like to highlight. We've been extremely brave and we feel stronger. We have reinvented ourselves. We've looked for other ways of reaching our students. And I think that if we look at the positive side of it all, this is the most important thing. We've really learned a lot.
Yeah.
Teamwork. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Anna, what about you? You need to unmute. Great, thank you.
Hola, bona tarda.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm also head teacher in a very complex school. And just as Laura, I think that these type of schools, well, have many elements to take into account. Obviously, we convey content, but that is not the most important thing. And I think that in this situation, this is something that we've seen very clearly. A school is much more. School is fundamental for our students. That's where they socialize, where they listen to, where they have fun, where they have friends, where they can experiment. So many things, I can't list them all. During our first lockdown here in Spain, we had to really make an incredible effort to be able to reach the families, because most families didn't have devices, didn't have the digital equipment to be able to follow our online courses. And as a team, we're a small school, and I think we work hand in hand. There's cohesion there. We try to be positive leaders. We try to also provide them with emotional tool. We came up with videos, we prepared some videos, and we try to convey hope and positive energy. And I think that this was also beautiful. Some families also tried to record something else and they sent it to us, although it was very precarious the way they could send us their recordings. But I think it's just that, like Laura has just said, we feel stronger. And when we've managed to open the doors to our students, they were extremely happy. This is something that we felt. I don't know whether they have a sixth sense, but
It doesn't, yeah.
even if there are rules there, they've adapted a new rules, especially now. They've really, really managed to adapt. We didn't know what would happen. It was totally uncertain, but as now, despite lockdown, school still goes on. So our doors have been open. So I think that all parts of the tree are important. The roots are absolutely key. And everybody is important. When talking about these videos, everybody participated, even the doorkeeper, everybody. This sense of belonging is very, very important in our school.
Thank you. Thank you very
I
much.
can't add
Thank
much
you.
more.
Thank you. Beth, what about you? Beth, yeah? Riera? Yeah.
Hi, hello. A veure si podem...
Unfortunately, we can't hear Beth. We can't hear you, Beth, says Mireia.
Beth, can I encourage you to just write something in the chat box as we can't hear you.
No?
Escriu-nos al YouTube i mentrestant, si un cas, li donem pas a la Maite.
Okay. Okay. Is it Maite? I don't know how to pronounce it.
Teresa.
Okay, please, yeah.
Teresa.
Teresa, okay. Thank you.
Molt agraïda d'estar avui aquí.
I'm extremely grateful to be here. I was also in your last webinar and I absolutely loved it. I am the head teacher of a school, and two schools came together in the same neighborhood. So we merged about 5 years ago and we enlarged the secondary education line or segment. So it's called sort of an institute school in Spain. It's secondary school. So we are in Lerida, and it is also a very complex neighborhood. So there are many nationalities there, and in our neighborhood, there are destructured families living there. So 5 years ago, we merged. I was the head teacher of one of those schools, primary school teacher, head teacher. It was a difficult process because there were two different associations of mums and dads, and also we had students coming from different areas, and we had to put them together. So the belonging of one school and the other was a bit difficult, this sense of belonging. But after 2 years, we managed to pull everybody together and it worked. And then we set up the secondary school or the secondary education center. Not everybody.
Can I just ask you, how has it been for you in lockdown? Okay, in all of this, when you look at your tree, tell me about your tree now.
Sí, el meu arbre, jo explico això perquè...
I'm telling you this because it was extremely difficult. And I thought, when we overcome this, well, we will be okay. But no, then COVID came into our lives. And we had to redefine ourselves again. So when students had to stay home, I thought, my goodness, what are we going to do now? But I thought, well, these students will be able to be with their families, although difficult families, but they'll be able to be with their mothers and their dads. They'll get to know them better because they'll stay home because they hardly saw them. So I sort of looked for the positive side to it all. And once they came back to school, I was dreading it. We were all frightened, but we saw that immediately that things would go well. Why? Because students were really keen to come to school.
Yeah.
And also their families supported them and supported us. And this is what really has helped us, because they have valued our work even more. And they have even congratulated us. They sometimes, as you know, it is very difficult to feel valued. It's very difficult to be valued, but this is something that happened. And as far as the sense of belonging is concerned, well, it was difficult when we carried out the merger, but now we see that they come really, really happy. Once an inspector who came said, when I come to this school, children are always laughing when I come to the school, to the playground. Very interesting, Maite. Obviously, we could organize a whole webinar. So, Catherine, these 10 minutes have gone by, but there's still Marce and Ricard who have to take the floor. So we're going to give them the floor, and then we'll go back to the group if you're agreeable,
Let's have
Catherine.
Mercy now. We were slightly ahead of ourselves with time, which is great. So Mercy, we definitely need you. And then I think other colleagues from the department, I think you can come in on the chat. That would be really great.
Sí.
And Mercy, so, and then I'm so taken with what you have all had to say, and it resonates so strongly with the work I've been doing with head teachers all over the country here. So Mercy, welcome to you, and tell us about your story, your tree.
Hola, bona tarda, Catherine.
Hello, good afternoon, Catherine. Well, I would like to give you 3 ideas. The first one is that this pandemic has been an opportunity. It has made us give the best we had. I think that this has been the case. And another thing is that it's made us be extremely creative. In this uncertainty, schools have reinvented themselves. This is a word we're using a lot. We had to be extremely creative when deciding what to do and how to go about things. And another concept I'd like to highlight is that more than ever, distributed leadership has been fundamental. It's not a head teacher or the management team. We're talking about an educational community here. So leadership, this distributed leadership was a key factor in order to be able to get to our students, to reach our students. And what was important here was to have a very clear goal set out. So all directors, all head teachers had to tell us what the main objective or goal is, what we told our teachers. And then after that, the leadership was completely distributed, was to always be in contact with our students. The link was absolutely fundamental. Despite distances, despite this remote learning, they always had to feel they were linked to our school, related. And there's a third factor I'd like to highlight. The consequences of this pandemic haven't ended. Obviously, we're seeing them now. We have to be prepared. Let's brace ourselves for very complicated months ahead. And we need to support our young people and our children, because these are very complicated months ahead. Obviously, we will flourish. And these are my 3 ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mercy. Yeah. Maria, should we...
Ens queda el Ricard?
Should we go back?
Catherine, we have Ricard. We have Ricard left. We just
Oh,
have one head teacher left,
I am
Ricard.
so sorry. I was just looking on the wrong line.
No.
Apologies. Thank you, Ricard. Please tell me about your tree.
Good afternoon. Bona tarda.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon.
Bé, intentaré ser breu.
Well, I'll try and be
Recullo una mica
brief.
el que han dit les companyes, perquè
Everything my
tots
colleagues have
som
said resonates
per la mateixa.
because we've gone through practically the same situation.
La imatge del dia 12
I have two images in my head. The 12th of March, that's the first one, when they told us that the school had to shut, had to close due to COVID. I remember that when I told our students and our teachers, when I told them that they didn't have to come back the next day, the students thought it was a party. They felt really happy. They didn't have to go to school the following day. They thought they were going on holiday.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, we're not really aware of the situation. They really don't know what's coming. So we didn't even know what was ahead of us, because at the beginning we thought it might be only 15 days, a couple of weeks, and we're talking about a year now. Another clear image I have in my mind is September, when we opened our school again, when the course started, when we asked our students, well, do you feel like coming back to your school? And they said yes. And they were very sincere. And I said, do you remember the 12th of March when you thought it was a big party when you left? And they said yes, but we can't stand being at home anymore. We were very bored, and we didn't like it. So this is related to the sense of belonging. We have 350 students. We're an average school. We are a unique school in the village. Uldocona is one of these small villages in a place called Terres de l'Ebre. We are quite far from the capital and from other big towns. We are, as you would call it, a rural school, and for the students is the only place where from there, the only place they can go. And they also use the school when classes are over, because they know this is a place that belongs to them. So they go to school even when they don't have classes. So there are many foreigners, as other schools here represented, foreign students. We have people or students from Romania and from the Maghreb area. So throughout the years, we've managed to pull them in to establish some kind of cohesion, because this hasn't happened all of a sudden due to the pandemic. And we've really made an incredible effort for them not to feel marginated because of their origin or because of the way they are. And I think we've managed quite well. And something that has helped us here, because this is something that we launched 10 years ago, was to use new technologies. This has really helped us throughout COVID, because when we closed our school, all students had a computer. The only hurdle was internet connection at home, but we also managed to solve that hitch. So this concern about connecting and not losing that connection really helped us, because we already had that. We were already technically prepared to link, to connect. So in only some cases we had connection problems, but all teachers and also the psychologists, and we have also a social worker, they all tried to get in touch via WhatsApp or Twitter. We used all channels in our hand to never stop this contact, and this has helped us. But currently, we've seen what reality really is this particular course, because here we see infections, we've seen people being positive in a classroom, we had to confine some students, and here we have really seen how students were worried and afraid of this uncertain situation. We've tried to help them and try to not make them feel so worried and to sort of calm them down. Thanks to the teachers, and for the time being, we can say that things are going well.
Thank you, Rika. I think on the IT, I was saying to somebody the other day, I used to think, a platform was where you got the train or the metro. And now I have these conversations about, which platform should we host the meeting? So, we have all learned so much on that, haven't we? Let's go back to the main bit now. And,
sí, podem tornar ja tots junts?
Yeah.
Perfecte.
Yes, we'll all go back together.
Ja estem tots, Catherine.
Thank you. Let me just make a couple of comments and then I'll ask Manuela to come in, because we've been working together with groups of school principals, head teachers in the UK, and it is really wonderful to hear the stories of the principals and stepping into a completely different space. If some of those principals from England were here, they'd be saying, we are working with families in ways that we have never worked before. Somebody was talking about distributed leadership. We're really doing that now. We're saying, we're trying things out. We're just not doing things that we don't think are possible, not possible, and not helpful for our young people. And I think that this is the absolutely key bit on belonging, which is saying, wow, just look where the spaces that you have stepped into, and then how you're not going to stop, I hope, and how you take that forward. Manuela, do you want to come in with some comments from your group, and then Maria, some comments from other people who've put in things. And Beth, I'm really sorry we didn't get to hear your comments because your speaker wasn't working. So Manuela.
Sí, bueno, son muchísimas cosas las que
Well,
podría
there are
decir.
many things I could say. We had a very interesting conversation, by the way. There are many elements that are disrupting the dynamics of schools right now. It is difficult to be able to create a community, and not only to be in the same space and hug each other, but also to be able to communicate, because there are many families that have difficulties along these lines. But there are also very valuable elements in each school related to their roots, to the smaller activities of all the actors that make up a school, these branches that are more or less visible in the tree and which are contributing to go forward despite all the difficulties. For example, the commitment of all teachers, this willingness to advance, the happiness of the children to see their teachers, to go back to school, this willingness they have to go back on the one hand, and on the other, very clear principles and concepts within the schools, pedagogical codes, value codes, to redefine roles. All these are elements that help navigate through this uncertainty.
Thank you. Miria, from our lovely people who are on YouTube, what sort of comments have come in?
Mira, doncs, per exemple, ens diuen que si d'una banda, durant el
They've
confinament...
told us that on the one hand, we felt a lack of roots through COVID, that we have felt moments of loneliness when faced to a screen. The positive side is we have realized that we need to strengthen this sense of belonging.
Yeah.
They also say that the education center is made up by people, and we've got to be extremely careful and take their welfare into account for the learners to learn. They also say it is a challenge, but we always have to see the opportunity to change, to transform, to reflect, to have new goals. And they also say that the family school link really was stronger.
Yeah.
These are the observations that we can see in the chat.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to very briefly go into the next part because I want to get into a particular part about you as leaders and what some of the issues are. So if we could have the next slide, please, which is slide 9. And that would be great, which says belonging is working when. Thank you. Okay. Now, the next 2 or 3 slides I used in the last presentation, and they really come from this research we did recently, sponsored by our Teachers Union. And so really, I'm going to go through this quite quickly because all this research you will be able to access on the Art of Possibilities website. That's literally all going up as we speak and will be all there by tomorrow. So what I want you to think about as school leaders here is you have to imagine that I am coming to your school, okay? And Maria knows I will be there and in many of your schools. And you're going to say to yourself, supposing Catherine came into our school, what would she see in our school? Would we, we know that belonging is working when staff stay in the school, and that contributes to consistency. When children understand what is expected of them, when everybody really talks about what matters, like learning, when children are at the heart of school life, and when staff feel they matter, the staff bit is really important, and have a voice. Okay, so that's that bit. And can we move to the next slide, please? So this next slide, slide 10, also comes from our research. We know the practices that really make a difference. We know the importance of communities. So my questions would be, if I was coming to school, I'd be saying, yeah, tell me about your connections with communities. Let's look at the relationships between staff, between senior staff and junior staff. That's often really important. Between staff and pupils, between staff and families and communities. And then I'd be asking you questions like, well, whose voices get heard? And, what about the voices of families who don't come from this area, weren't born here, come from different parts of the world? And then if we go to the next slide, I would be really trying to say to you, what does it really feel like? So let's look at this next slide. This again is from research. I just love this image, star of the week. Now, I've done a lot in the past on how young people feel about school. Great picture, isn't it? This is what it feels like. Everybody's cheering me. So can we just go back on that one? Okay. Now, the bit I want to mention is from our last research is, I hadn't until recently done much on how teachers experience belonging. And I was completely blown away in that piece of research on what it meant. This is a quote from a teacher. We were doing an exercise with teachers and we said, tell us about the school. How does it feel when you belong? And this teacher started to cry. And everybody was looking at her because they kept saying, but you're a real toughie. Why are you crying? They were as surprised as I was. And this is what she said, I feel really emotional, you know, and she talked about another school and how she didn't feel she belonged. But then she said, in this school, I feel I belong. My opinion is heard. I can be myself. I can have a personal professional life. I can make a difference. Now, if your teachers feel like that, you know that your pupils are going to really feel like that too. So I touched on this last time, but this is the evidence, and it's so powerful and so wonderful. Now, I want to go to the next slide, slide 12, which I call the clouds of unknowing. And we could stick with the English bit for the moment till I find my English and Spanish bit, and then we can, yeah, okay. So if you want to put the Spanish bit on, that's great. I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to talk for a good few minutes about this because I think it's very different and I think it can be quite uncomfortable. So I have been trying to make sense of what I have learned during COVID, during the work I've been doing, the leadership work, research I did with the teacher union. And I've come to the conclusion, I came to the conclusion that what I was seeing was 3 different spaces. And this is what I call them. I call the first one the space of unknowing. That's a really, really tricky space. The liminal space, I'm going to explain what these are. And then what I call the space of recalibrating. And then I started to think about, I'm going to explain what these are, and then I'm going to be asking you what you think about this. And I started thinking about what on earth is going on. And I thought, well, you know what? You've got to, first of all, learn how to ride a very wobbly leadership board. This is my little cloud, you know. I mean, this is a really different context we are in. And it is not just a matter of months. In many ways, this is going to be a reality of a different sort for you know, years to come in different kinds of ways. And so one of the most important things is that I put here, it's not a sprint, you know, this is the long term. It's not, right, we're just going to get back to normal and all the children will be back and everything is solved. You know, this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And it's about endurance, compassion to yourself, first of all, and it's also about courage. So here's my thinking about these 3 spaces, and the questions I'm going to be asking you to think about when we come together in the group are these, you know, what does this actually feel for you? So this first space is what I call the space of not knowing. Now, this is a really odd one because certainly what the heads I've been working with say, well, you know, the thing is, I'm the head teacher, I'm supposed to know, you know, I'm supposed to be able to plan ahead, to be able to say, this is what we're doing in the curriculum in 3 months ahead, and this is where our children will be, and to have all that certainty. And really, what I'm saying to you is that you have to leave behind some of your certainty. And some of you don't, you were doing that. That's what you're telling me. You've been leaving behind what you know and just embracing and taking what is. So you say, so I think the real challenge is, how can you be a leader when you don't know all the answers? And how can you lead other people into what I call a place through uncertainty? Because it's no good if you know, if you keep saying, people are saying to you, well, we're going to do this and what's going to happen, and then what a stress on you. But to be able to say, well, I don't know, but what I do know is how we're going to work together to find the answers and to do that. So this is, for those of you who say, I like to organize, I like the structure, I like the form, things are changing. So that's that first bit. What does it feel like to say, yeah, I may be the leader, but I don't know. Now, the second space is what I call the liminal space. So this liminal space is a really odd one. It can be very disconcerting because it is part of the not knowing. You're betwixt and between. It's a transitional place. Now think about that. Transitional means that you can go different ways. And what I want you to think about, and you've all said this, it's like all the cards are in the air. You've thrown in your school, and the pandemic's done it. It's thrown all the cards in the air about what, how things should be organized and so on. However, the cards haven't yet come down, and they can come down differently. So the liminal space is a space of possibilities, and I can feel that in the air, that in your conversations and in what you are saying, the liminal space, the space of future possibilities. And you know that, you're all saying that, and it's having the courage to say, yeah, we're going to step forward into this space with compassion. It's the long haul, not a sprint, and this is actually what we're going to do. So you're on the threshold of something so different that can make such a significant impact on young people. You will, and I say, please God, never have this space again, because I would never wish us all to go through anything remotely like this. It's happened, and it opens up the space, the liminal opportunity to go into what I think is our third space, which is the space of recalibration. Okay, old certainties have gone, new configurations. You're already talking about that. You're talking about, we're doing this differently. Now we're doing this, we're using IT in a different kind of way, but we're also really connecting to people. Don't lose that. We have all suffered too much. Our children have suffered too much. And if they are to make the gains, then they have to feel that sense of belonging and connectedness, because that's what actually will move them on. So the recalibrating space is, well, yeah, how can somebody in my group was talking about the wonderful videos that families have done. Honestly, here, I'm looking over the river, and one of the school communities is just over the other side of the river. And one of the heads was laughing. She said, you should have seen it. And people were doing it on their phones and whatever. And they were just dropping in these films and bits and pieces. And nobody was particularly caring about the quality, but a sharing of that with community has just been fantastic. And then how do you bring the different voices together? And then how do you continue all your learning on, in that, the leadership wobble board, as I call it, and it is very different. So I think this is both scary to say, I'm a leader, but I don't know. And to be able to say that in ways that yourself won't panic. I may not know what we're going to do, but I do know how we're going to do it. I do know we're going to do this because we talk and connect, and we bring everybody in, and we bring all the difficult voices, and we bring all of the connected voices together, and we will do this together, and it will create something completely different. Some of our heads are talking about, some of the structures. We've always organized our school day like that. We're thinking, why on earth should we do that? We can just reconfigure, the ways that the timetable is organized. Why do it? The fact that we've been doing it like that before, but we've all found different ways. So this is an incredible opportunity. It's a bit scary, but it is an incredible opportunity. So what I suggest now is we go into but before we do that, let me explain. So we're going to go into our little groups and discuss this. And then we'll take a little break, a cup of tea or whatever. A cup of tea for me. I've got some nice lemon and ginger tea here. I'd wanted to then, when we came back, put a video on, and Maria will tell you how to get that. That although this is our video and we made it, YouTube don't quite like it because we haven't registered it with them. So in your tea break, have a little look at this video. Maria will give you the link on that. And it's a video we did last year in Morocco, and it's wonderful because it's thinking about the spirit of belonging. And I will then, after the break, talk about the distinctiveness about how you create belonging in response to your community. So just to recap, in a minute or two, we're going to go into our little groups, discuss our 3 questions, then we take a short break, and during the break you have a little look at the video, and then I'll talk a bit more about the video. So Mira, you want to just give instructions and then we'll move forward.
Si vols anar ara als grups, anem als grups i després en el xat nosaltres posem l'enllaç.
So we'll go to the groups now, and then we'll give them the link to the YouTube video. Yes.
Em sembla que no et sentim ara.
We can't hear you, I'm afraid. Catherine?
Right. Can you hear me now?
Doncs anem als grups ara, Catherine?
Shall we go to the groups now, to the breakout sessions now?
Yes.
Ja estem en els nostres grups.
Okay.
There we are.
Okay, great, lovely.
10 minutes then, Catherine?
Yeah, okay. And then you get your tea break or your stretch or whatever you need to do. And it's those questions. You know, I've suggested there were 3 different spaces: this the not knowing, the liminal space, the recalibrating space. Come in and talk about whichever space that you want to. How does it feel to you? What do you see? Beth, I'm going to come to you first. And do you want to try? Is your system working? Do you want to try? Do you want to come in? We'd love to hear from you. Let's see if we can hear from you first.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Ara sí,
Yes.
perfecte.
Oh,
excellent. Really
Bet,
yeah.
si parles en català se't sentirà millor al YouTube, perquè si no t'han de
If you
sentir...
speak in
No, si haig de parlar en anglès serà
Yes.
horrorós.
No, I won't speak in English. It would be a total disaster.
D'acord. D'acord.
So,
La
yours,
pregunta
Beth.
és que jo no tinc la traducció, llavors la pregunta que em fèieu era...
So what was the question exactly? Because I can't hear the interpreter, says Beth.
Okay.
We wonder why.
Okay. Beth, my question is this. I suggested that from what I have seen during the pandemic, that for school leaders, 3 spaces are opening out. I call it the not knowing space, the liminal space, this in-between space, and the recalibrating space. So I would just love to hear how you see it. We're stepping from where we are into something different. How does this feel to you? What do you see and what do you experience?
Bet, pots triar el canal de traducció, però mentrestant ella el que ve a preguntar-te és d'aquests 3 espais que ella ha
So now Mireia is translating because I don't think Beth has the interpretation channel active.
Bueno, ha sigut
Well,
difícil, no?
It's been quite difficult.
Totes les 3 situacions, no?
I think it's been a combination of all 3.
Jo estic escoltant tot el que escolta la Catherine. Estic escoltant en
I can
anglès.
hear the English, says Beth.
Yes. Però, a veure, costa caminar amb la incertesa, no? I una mica també costa caminar amb la por, no? I treballar amb la por dels companys.
Work with uncertainty and with this fear of all our colleagues and the whole community.
El que fem és caminar, tenir confiança amb l'equip i saber que entre tots podrem sortir, no? Amb l'ajuda de tots.
All together we'll manage to get through with everybody's help. When I talk about the team, I refer to the teachers, the staff, the parents,
totes aquelles persones que són administratius, que,
all the people doing the administrative work.
Tenim confiança en que la nostra comunitat
we do trust and
fem un
hope
treball
that
en
our
equip,
community
tots
will
junts,
pull through,
no?
because it is teamwork all
Jo
together.
crec que és l'única manera de vèncer
I
aquesta
think it's
por,
the
no? De fer-nos
only way
costat
to
els uns als altres,
overcome
de
this
cuidar-nos, de
fear,
dir
to
com
really take
esteu,
care of each
com
other,
us
to keep
trobeu,
asking, how are you?
com
How do
podem
you feel?
avançar, hem de
How
parar,
can we go forward? If we
perquè hi ha
have to
hagut
stop,
moments molt
let's
durs. Hem
stop,
tingut
because there have
companys
been extremely
que
difficult
han
moments.
estat malalts
Some
i
colleagues have been ill,
la paraula que tothom no,
and fear is the word that everybody had in
De
their
fet, hi ha una cosa que
heads.
voldria dir, que és que
There's
els
something I
nens
would
ens
like
han
to say.
ensenyat
Children have taught us
que la valentia, no? Ells,
to be brave.
parlem ostres, ens costa anar amb mascareta, ens
We
costa
always say,
classe
oh
d'aquesta
God, it's
manera.
hard to wear
Ells
the
han fet les
mask or to
coses
do
d'una
this
manera,
or that, but they've done it
bueno, que ens han d'un
in
mestratge
such a way
impressionant,
that
no?
they
Vull dir
have
que ells s'ho
really
han fet les
taught us
coses
a
amb
lesson.
naturalitat
It really came
i
easy
que ens han
to them.
ensenyat a portar aquesta situació de la
They
millor
have
manera
told us
possible.
how to really go about this situation in the best possible way. Thank you very much, Beth.
Thank you.
In the chat, I have
Gràcies.
explained how you can change your interpretation channel.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, okay, that hasn't come to me. For me to change it, Mary, you're saying?
No. It was only for Beth. It was
Okay,
only for Beth.
I'm going to ask everybody else the same question. Okay. Very specific.
Si podem sintetitzar.
We are, as I've said, in a position now. We've all gone through so much. We've all learned so much. And this is the most incredible and challenging opportunity. And I think if you step into it and say, yeah, well, we can use a bit more technology or we can do this, it would be a pity. I'm asking you the question, looking now at the opportunity to recalibrate, okay, what are you going to do? Major, not just, well, I'm going to have an extra 10 minutes play on a Tuesday. I'm joking, but what is the major shift? What do you see as a way that you can really recalibrate so that take the space and the school and your tree in a different way? Okay. So Mercy, I'm going to come to you because you were at the end last time. What is the opportunity of recalibration?
Bueno, és una pregunta molt difícil, eh?
It's quite a hard question.
It is indeed, yes. In 2 minutes, yeah.
Okay. Mira, jo el que penso és que...
I believe that we have to feel stronger after that, and we have to manage to identify our strong points. So we now see that distributed leadership and teamwork are absolutely fundamental, and this is where we have to focus on. We need networks as well within the schools and with other schools, but teamwork is essential. Another solution that we can put forward is that next school year, we want to do co-teaching. That's what we want to implement, to work together, to have teachers working together in the classroom. So here's where we can add up, where we can really develop teamwork, to have inclusion, to be able to take care or to be able to attend to a very heterogeneous group. So these are one of the measures that we're going to use, this co-teaching method. So we have to really strengthen distributed leadership and lots of teamwork, and to also have network working as a priority to be able to reach the most vulnerable students. So here, what do I mean? Well, network is to work with psychologists and with other professionals. So this is quite an improvised reply, but there it goes.
Thank you, Mercy, and I really put you on the line there, but thank you very much indeed. Anna, I'm going to come to you because I'm bubbling with you. Come on, Anna. So tell me, Anna, now, where the key point of recalibration. All the cards are in the air and you're going to come down differently. Anna.
Anna.
Yeah. You're oh, great, thank you.
Anna, oi? Has dit, perdó. Sí? Jo també ara quan parlava l'anterior companya penso que és una pregunta difícil.
I think it's a hard question too.
I know.
I think we have to really support our strong points, to really use our strong points, to really strengthen what we do well. And then there are projects that identify us as a school, but we have to dare to proceed to this recalibration, and we have to incorporate new methodologies, new ideas, new projects. And in our case, in our school, we want people to feel they are part of the school. The importance of people has really come out throughout this pandemic. And I've already told you about my school. It is quite a complex situation. So this is summarizing my intake.
Thank you. I know I'm putting you all on the line with this question and you're going, do you know what? We've just been surviving. We're doing all these really difficult things. We're identifying things. I'm going, yeah, and what next? Because actually you won't have much time to move into the space because other people will fill it, other ideas. One, we've had some issues, some major political issues from government, and people were saying we're lacking leadership, and I'm saying, well, yeah, but are you going to wait for that? You are the leaders. How do you step into the space? It's a real challenge, and you might think, well, we'll just get the children back to school. But don't, this is your one and only chance. There will never be another chance like this. Laura, the same challenging question. And the rest of you, Ricardo, you know I'm going to come to you, so you've got a bit of warning. Laura.
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 A veure, nosaltres, sobretot, crec que ens plantegem crear més...
First and foremost, we want to create more spaces to socialize. It is important to connect classes and the leisure part of our school, especially after all these months that we've been locked up, so to speak. We want to provide them with this access to these spaces where they can socialize with more people. And I think this is all about connecting to our closest environment, networking with other services, what we have around us. And I think that it is vital to connect to the closest environment of our students, to offer all this raft of opportunities for them to have other learnings and to recover this time. And especially that should be it, to look for more spaces to socialize.
Thank you. Ricard, what about you? Your big recalibrating.
Sí. Bé, és cert que, com ha dit ara mateix Catherine, quan estem...
As Catherine rightly put it, when we are in the midst of the battle, it is very difficult to see things and because we need to stop and reflect. What we have to do is to wonder, are we doing the right thing? Are we missing something? But very quickly, and trying to sum up the situation right now, as other colleagues have said, what really helps is the teamwork, this ability to work in a team. Tutorials, this is something we have strengthened. we have seen the tutors were a key figure in this situation. And what we have done this school year is to create the tutor assistant figure. So each student has a tutor and what we call a co-tutor or an assistant to therefore strengthen, highlight this connection between tutors and the family, between the school and the family, to know what goes on with these children. What are the problems they have at home? What about their families? This is something that really concerns us because, as I said before, the families of our school are going through hardship, especially now with the pandemic. And sometimes students are suffering this family situation, and this obviously has an influence on their schoolwork. So we try to know about this and emotionally help them as much as we can. Obviously, financially, this won't be possible, but emotionally, this is one of our functions to help. And going back to your tree image, we are an olive field. We have a millenary olive trees. And now we should focus on resilience. Resilience, how an olive tree, which is a highly resilient tree that goes through all sorts of things, it can live up to 2,000 years, and how we see them now and they still resist. So we would take these olive trees to be able to overcome difficult situations and look to the future.
Thank you. I've got two wonderful olive bushes rather than trees growing on my balcony, so absolutely thriving by the river here in London, even through our winter. It may take, I didn't get your pronounce your name properly before, did I? Is it Maite?
Maite.
Maite. Okay.
Teresa.
Teresa,
Maite,
yeah.
sí.
Oh, because Maite is your surname.
Doncs jo, davant d'aquesta pregunta...
Maite, disculpa. Okay, so your recalibration, answer to the recalibration question.
Sí. Jo, davant d'aquesta pregunta, sí que és complexa.
It is a hard question, a complex question.
Yeah.
But in order to recalibrate, we have to be aware of what has happened. Once the storm is over, once we feel in a calmer place, let's try to see how we have felt. And why am I saying this? Emotionally, and to see how they are emotionally, and also how it has had an impact on their learning skills. We have very vulnerable students. We're now trying to see how which strategies are we going to put into practice? This is what we're focusing on to help these students, because they haven't been able to socialize. We haven't been able to communicate sometimes, and how their learning skills have suffered, and how we can help them in any way. How can we help our students? Because that's what our aim is, our students. This is something that we can't forget. We always have to have this in mind. And then once we have seen what we've gone through, what has happened, how can we rebuild things? And something that we're all seeing, although I don't think we are completely aware of it, because obviously head teachers don't know everything, and we've got to say that openly. There are things that we don't know, we're unaware of, but I think that we will manage to know in the end is to value what we have and what we had, especially. So let's value the human side of it, the kindness, and to listen. We've all felt lonely. We've all been indoors, and we really have this willingness to explain. There's a lack of time to listen. This is what I've seen. To listen, obviously, we've all adapted to this situation. It's been harder for some, but we've all managed to adapt to how others are, and we have been able to respect others. So that is why listening is extremely important. This is one of the lessons, to listen to our students and to listen to our teachers.
Thank you, Tobay. What we're going to do now is take a short break. Miriam, I'm wondering whether we should just be saying we'll take a 5-minute break, and perhaps to encourage people to look at the video later, because I think it's going to be very tight, and I'll give you a flavour of the video when we come back in 5 minutes and why I would encourage you to look at it, and then we're just a bit less rushed then, aren't we? So if we just take literally a 5-minute stretch, because I've been really pushing you and I'm asking you the really tough questions, and so I think a little, if we were together, we would probably do a little children's thing that I do. You might know, you do head, shoulders, knees and toes, a real kind of way to move yourself. So let's just take a 5-minute break. The video, I will encourage you and our lovely people who are listening on YouTube, you might be looking at the video now, but a little 5 minutes break, and we'll literally come back in 5 minutes, if that's okay. I'll give you a little resume of the video, and then I want to pull this together about compassionate leadership, but obviously finish on time. So 5 minutes stretch time, I think, for everybody. Okay? Okay.
D'acord, doncs tornem a les 7 en punt.
So see you all at 7 on the dot.
Yeah.
Mireia, ja tornem a estar aquí. Sota els 5 minuts. Sí. La Catherine no sé si ha tornat. No ha tornat. Estem emetent pel canal també de YouTube. Mira, doncs, suposo que tornarà ara de seguida.
Ara hem de mirar el vídeo.
Bueno, el vídeo us podeu desar a l'enllaç i el podeu veure després.
D'acord, gràcies.
Disculpa, com es diu el vídeo?
Perdó, us l'he posat en el xat del Zoom i del YouTube.
Ah, d'acord.
Mira, la Catherine ja ha tornat.
I el podeu configurar en català, eh?
D'acord.
Thank you. Can I pick up again now? Thank you. Let me mention about the video and then I want to just come back on the discussion. The video is called The Power of Belonging and it's based in Morocco. It was the conference that some of people here were attending and I had the wonderful opportunity along with my partner Roberta Molina to make a presentation and so on. But we worked in Morocco with a group of young people. And if you look at the video, you will see these young people and it's just you see the energy and creativity. And the group of young people we work with had the opportunity to present their ideas about how schools should be to somebody very senior from the ministry. And when those young people are talking, the person from the ministry was there. It was a wonderful moment. And when you look at it, I want you to think, what does it mean in Catalonia to belong in the school? You know, how does that reflect your history, your culture, your aspirations? How does it reflect how new communities have come to join you? So that creating school belonging is distinctive, is unique. So I think look at that video and think, how are we going to do this here? How are we going to think about these issues? What does it look like? What does it feel about? And maybe you should make the video. That would be fantastic to do that. So that's the point of the video. And I just want to say, before I move on, we move on to the next bit. In that session, I asked you principals a really, really tough question. How are you going to build on, how are you going to recalibrate, rethink? And some of you are going, we are just coming up from air and she's asking this really tough question, like, how do we do things completely differently in the future? But I think it's the really important question and the question that matters. This is your chance to do things so completely differently. Manuela, your group, some comments, and then Miria, some any reflections from the chat room, and then I'm just going to do, it's roughly 10 minutes of bringing this together in relation to compassionate leadership. So Manuela.
Sorry, I was muted. Voy a hablar en español.
I'll speak in Spanish. Very interesting conversation. To sum up, I'd say that I have the feeling that head teachers are moving on in the three spaces simultaneously: the unknowing, recalibration, the liminal. They also are accepting this unknowing. They acknowledge that there are learnings here. They can also learn from what they know. There are lots that we don't know, but there are lots that we know do work, related to taking decisions with other people, to collaborate, or to create spaces to collaborate, not only amongst the management team or teachers, but also with families and even with the students. Along these lines, to work in highly complex schools seems to help to face uncertainty, to accept it, and to be willing and to have the capacity to readapt when something doesn't work, to look for other ways of going about it. And this is something that all head teachers have put into practice this past year because of COVID.
Thanks, Manuela. Miria, from the other comments from people on Zoom?
Sí, mira, del YouTube ara tenim bastants comentaris.
There are quite a lot of comments in YouTube. Let's try to summarize. When we face uncertainty, we need flexibility. We need to adapt. In this transition space, it is important to add everybody's voices in the decision-making process. It is a moment to redefine, recalibrate new options, and to change the organization, and maybe some pedagogical changes too. A metaphor, what we're doing is to share a journey and the same destiny, and the importance of learners in schools. It is a space that really is empowering. It's a place where we feel some kind of height sickness, but once we do understand it, we get everybody involved. Not to segregate, to include all learners, all students. They also say that we've seen the best version of ourselves.
Yes.
We've gone through some hard moments, but we've been able to react, and this has allowed us to see the best version of us all. We need to stress all the work of our teachers, the tutors that have connected to the families, and we've got to take care of all the teachers, of all the staff at a social and emotional level. And these are the contributions that we have seen in the chat.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Miria. Can I go to slide 13, please? Thank you. Okay. I'm going to go through these last 4 or 5 slides very quickly. And these are tools to help you, I think, in your recalibrating space. And I mentioned some of these last time. So if you've got to do your stock taking of where you are. And so you have to think about how you see things, how you ask the questions, the inquiry, and how you think about things. Next slide. Now, these I used last time. I'm going to go through them really quickly. This is looking through schools through the prism of place and belonging and seeing things afresh. This one is inquiring, asking the questions that matter, such as whose voices are heard and who do we need to hear. All of this you can look at, but as leaders, these are the questions that you need to be asking. And then the next slide, 16, is that wonderful thing of possibilities, the mindset of possibilities, that everybody is talking about our school as a place where I belong. And that's how you create dynamic and wonderful places. So let's get to slide 17, which is really where I'm just pulling this together. So slide 17. Okay, so this is where it all comes to about being a compassionate leader and what you do. And it's really only pulling together what you've been saying, you know, that compassionate leaders, it's their values that matter, and what your values matter, they shape the actions that you take, and that's what helps create a sense of belonging. And what I call the 3 C's framework for the future, where we need to step up, and you're talking, this thing is about compassion, connectivity, and communication. These are all of the elements of what is needed to bring about that recalibration, because you start with compassion. You're connecting and bringing everybody on board, which is what you've been saying. You are communicating. And I think that wonderful conversation, I think, Ricard, you particularly brought that in about that lovely thing of you've now got somebody who's the tutor connecting to families, you know, they are part of the dialogue. They are part of framing the future. And these are things that are really important. So if we can go to slide 18 now, please. Here we go to slide. Oh yeah, we have. No, the next slide, which says compassionate leaders. Next slide, please. Okay, so I just put, I think you look at the drawings. I love this. This is from research I did some years ago. And it's about thinking of your role as a leader, as creating the conditions for school belonging, compassionate, connected, communicative. And these are children's drawings of what it means to be a school leader, and it's you deciding, and it's leaving control behind and think about enabling and enacting the agency of people. So just look at those 2 pictures and say, yeah, which one are you walking? I'm pretty sure which one most of you are walking, given what you said. And this then leads us, because this is the finale, as it were, my last bit, slide 19. And then you are saying to yourself, when you look at this, which school am I leading? You know, is it this, and this is just from, you know, obviously again from the research, you know, is it this closed down school on the right where people are kind of locked out and locked in, or is it this open school where people feel that it is part of community? Now, you are all expressing, if I were to ask you to draw this, I think so many of you were in that left-hand picture. So the big challenge now is to say, how do you do that? So I've been asking you that recalibration, and you're going, yeah, but we're just surviving and we're catching breath. But what you're doing is saying, this is the school, this is our school, and this is really what we're working for. And then if you just go to the next wonderful picture, which I adore and I used last time. So this is slide 20. I absolutely love this. This is from the research we did with the Teachers Union. And what I love is when you look at this child's fingers, she's standing, this child, thinking about, you know, stepping into school with such eagerness. And if you look at her hands, that's my favorite bit. And they're just, the energy in those hands is so wonderful. I belong here, says this child. So I think for all of us, we're all in this transition time, and we have to remember what's been lost along the way and who's been lost over the last year. And we have to remember what we've learned, the pain of it, the joy of it, as I said in my introduction, the wonderful random acts of kindness that we've all been touched by. And remember, the cards have been thrown in the air, and you are the people who is now going to be deciding how those cards are going to fall and how they should be reconfigured. And so I just want to end by wishing you've been on one journey, but you're just starting on another one, and it is a truly amazing one that can bring about such transformation for our young people. And I just wish you all the best in that, and don't forget what you've learned, and bring all the people you've been working with on board, the young people, their families, the teachers, your colleagues, the networks, into this incredible process of transformation, which will liberate schools in all sorts of ways for young people, create a sense of belonging for them, and they're learning that the catch up, as it were, on the things that they technically need to know will be so speedy and so wonderful. So I'm going to end here, and I just want to thank you. I think it's a pause. I kind of say I'm pressing the pause button because I'm so looking forward to coming and meeting with some of you people and hearing how you do. So I am now going to pass over to colleagues from Catalan and just say all the blessings and best luck on your journey, and enjoy it. Don't be panicked. This is so exciting. You don't know where it's going to go, and that is the really exciting bit, but young people are going to help you. So thank you all very much indeed. Thanks.
Bé, doncs, moltes gràcies, Catherine, Manuela.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Manuela. So we draw this session to a close. We have been delighted, very inspiring. I'd like to thank all the colleagues in YouTube. I'd also like to thank the interpreters, a pleasure, and the technical team, because everybody has come on board. And this is, I'll try to give you an example of how we can adapt to this very complex reality. And one of the words is together. Junts in Catalan. Today we have shared this sense of belonging and compassion, and we have committed ourselves to the values that we all defend and we all build in our schools and in society a bit more. This belonging can only be built with everybody. So what we don't talk about doesn't exist. So to include the word belonging to our vocabulary is part of the challenge. There's been an inquiry of how to implement belonging in our schools, and we have appreciated our current uncertainties because although it might seem a limitation, it can also help us to look for new ways of going about things and how to create new learning content, which is highly inclusive, where every single voice is listened to. And then we will have everybody's decision and everybody's energy. We all are leaders, formal and non-formal educational leaders. So this is a moment for initiatives and ideas. If you have an idea, just make yourselves be listened to. And let's make sure that we also listen to all voices. A school is a place for everybody, as Catherine has taught us today. So thanks once again. Let's keep on learning. Let's keep on sharing. Let's keep together. Good afternoon.